Hello, everyone. I just wanted to send a little note over about this week's homework assignment. So it's very simple in that it's not a lot of additional work that you need to add to your week, but it is a new layer of awareness to bring into your week. And that video is entitled Assess Your Relationship with Control. So make sure that you go on as soon as possible and listen to it. It's only a 4-minute video. It's really just a voice note guiding you through this new layer of awareness that you'll be bringing into your week. It's very important that you do this now. Start embodying the work right now, because next week we're going to add a new layer of awareness for you to bring into your life. And that is the most important part of this training, the embodiment work, bringing in the new pieces of awareness so you can begin embodying this material. Just showing up for the live sessions is not enough to actually embody the work. And so that's what is going to be required in order to receive your certificate at the end of the course, is you to be able to really demonstrate that you have embodied the work. And I'm going to be able to gauge that all throughout by what we're discussing during the private sessions throughout, as well as on the final exam and some of the other final requirements for the certificate. So make sure that you do that. Don't put it off. And also just know that it's not like you have to add a lot of extra work to your week. It's really not. You're going to go about your life the same way you always do, just with a different or new layer of awareness. But I wanted to also record this to let you know, why are we looking at control this week? Why is it so important for us to assess our relationship with control? And here are the reasons. 1, control inhibits our relationship with the felt sense. So when we move through our lives trying to control outcomes or trying to control situations, trying to control ourselves, maybe trying to control our feelings, when we do that, this inhibits the felt sense. When we're operating in a more masculine dominant program in our lives, we will see a lot of control, a lot of pushing things versus allowing things and really experiencing ourselves as we're moving through our lives. And to experience yourself means that you're allowing yourself to feel and sense your way through the world, versus living in a very linear way, which is moving from task to task, checking things off your to-do list, checking things off your list of achievements. That has its place and its purpose, but that's not going to help you be an effective trauma-informed practitioner. The most effective practitioners out there who are supporting persons with trauma, whether that is a coach or a therapist or a counselor, or perhaps it's a doctor or an acupuncturist or a teacher at a school, it doesn't really matter the role. What makes people effective versus ineffective are the leaders out there who have the ability to be in a state of receptivity. To be in a state of receptivity means that you are open enough that you can feel and sense what's happening within you and around you moment to moment. This is completely different than a linear way of life, right? So if you are working with someone in a class or in a session and they are going through something inside of themselves where they're having symptoms in their body, dysregulated nervous system, or they're going through an emotional trigger, if you try to approach that from an agenda of control, then you will be approaching this in a very linear way. You're going to listen to them describe the symptom that they're having, and you're going to try to prescribe an answer or a tool for them, because you will be trying to control their symptom. That is not skilled trauma support. Skilled trauma support is recognizing that the symptom that this person is experiencing, or that their current condition, is a messenger from their innate intelligence. Even if it's a panic attack, that panic attack is a messenger. And we'll get into this later of how would we work with someone who is having a panic attack. What are certain things that we can do to help contain those symptoms so this person can process what they're feeling and move through it. But we're not there yet. And we can't start diving into technique at all yet, because what we're doing right now, assessing our relationship with control, comes first. This is the foundation. If we really need to master this part before we can even think about technique, because every single technique that is offered, before we can truly know which technique to use and how to offer it to this particular person, to really know that, we have to be in a state of receptivity. We have to be able to feel and sense in the moment. Feeling and sensing through the felt sense. This is the pathway of healing. So, if you are going to be a leader or a guide that can assist someone else in deciphering the meanings of their own felt sense, it's imperative that you first are able to sit with your felt sense. When we talked about painful presence during the call, can you sit in your felt sense? Can you form a relationship with your own felt sense? And can you experience your own felt sense without trying to control it? Control shows up in many forms. Oftentimes, here's an example of control. Let's say we have an emotional trigger and our bodies are becoming dysregulated, and we can feel and sense that dysregulation. And then immediately we want to go to, how do I calm this? How do I stop this? How do I fix this? Or how do I wisdomize what I'm experiencing so I don't have to feel it anymore? All of that is a form of control. It's looking at what's being presented in the moment through the trigger and saying, there's something wrong with this and I need to do something to stop it. When we do that, we are unable to receive the message of the trigger. We are unable to receive the message coming from the sensations in the body or the dysregulation in the nervous system. To really receive the message coming from the psyche and body, we must be in a state of receptivity. So it's this way of kind of pulling those conditions closer to feel them maybe more deeply without trying to fix, change, or stop them. And definitely without judging them as wrong or bad. Okay? So that's one of the most important aspects, is recognizing when you're trying to control what's showing up for you versus pulling it a little closer to feel into it a little more deeply, to receive the message of what this condition is asking of you. We're going to talk a lot more about that next month and in all the upcoming months. But for now, this is like the intro into the foundational material. Another reason we're assessing our relationship with control is that control can interfere with a client's own timeline for processing and transforming themselves. So if you go into a session and you have an agenda of what you want this person to feel or what you want them to heal within a certain amount of time, that is a form of control. And your mind may tell you, no, it's just that I really want to help this person and I want to be results driven. That's great that you want to be results driven, but understand that every single person you work with has their own timeline for healing. And if we go in with an agenda that is trying to push someone towards a specific outcome or a specific timeline, then we will be interrupting their organic process for healing. We might be rushing it or pressuring it. And when a client can feel pressure to please the practitioner that they're working with, they will sometimes give you feedback that's not actually true to what's going on within them. They might just be giving you feedback to tell you what you want to hear so they can hurry up and get out of the feeling of feeling pressured. Or they may fear doing something wrong, and so they're going to tell you what you want to hear. So if you go in with an agenda where you're trying to control outcome, that energy is going to be transferred onto the client, and it will absolutely interfere with their organic healing process. This happens a lot. I hear a lot of my current clients tell me how often this took place during their therapy sessions. So when they were working with other therapists, and that's what's so different when they work with me, is that they know they're on their own timeline. And it's not about let's hurry up and move through these symptoms. It's what is there for me to learn and understand and master within myself that these symptoms are trying to show me. Effective trauma support means that we exist in this place of non-duality, where anything that's showing up is recognized as intelligence. It's intelligent communication coming from within the natural design of the individual. Can we be in a receptive and present state so that we can receive that communication? The difference here is you're not going in to just assign your modality or prescribe a tool. That is masculine approach. That's you projecting your agenda onto a client. An organic healing and transformation process is a feminine approach. That's why we had that painfully slow recording about the lost healing modality and the return of the feminine. We have to go in and allow ourselves to be receptive, to feel and sense and listen to the messages coming from the body and the psyche. And those messages coming from within the client are going to guide them in their own transformational journey. So it's not going to be your philosophy or your modality. It's going to be their own innate intelligence. Your role as a practitioner is to create a container that feels safe and supportive for the client so that innate intelligence can be heard and witnessed. Okay? So, another aspect of control that we want to bring into our awareness here is that control is a behavior that stems from an underlying fear or insecurity. So if you are finding yourself when you're going into sessions with clients, if you're feeling an attachment to an outcome, or if you're feeling a need to control the number of clients you're working with in a day, or if you're someone who actually gets a lot of pride out of working with a larger number of clients in a day, if that's a pride point for you, then put that in check, because that is control. You're gaining some sense of power and energy by having more numbers on your schedule. That is a form of control. It's a form of not feeling enough within ourselves, and so using our professional practice to fulfill that sense of I'm not enough. And when you do that, you're going to overbook yourself, and you will be operating with this underlying subconscious insecurity of I'm not enough. And that energy is transferred into your practice. So if you're someone who boasts about the number of clients you're working with, or you're boasting about your trauma-informed practice as a business, I'm asking you to stop doing that as a requirement for this program. There are plenty of people out there who are operating on that high masculine adrenaline energy, trying to grow their business and get as many clients as possible, and boost their numbers as much as possible. That energy, even if you have the most beautiful heart and the most beautiful mind and the most beautiful intention, if you're bringing that energy into your practice, then it's a masculine dominant approach. And it will cloud your ability to be receptive. Hosting space in which you can be so present with someone that you are able to guide them into a communication with their innate intelligence requires such deep presence with yourself. And if you're overbooking yourself, you are running on a chronically dysregulated nervous system. Your nervous system affects the nervous system of the person you're working with, whether you're in person or not. There is transference that's taking place. So if you're running around in that highly masculine kind of like adrenaline, high adrenaline states, but you want to work in trauma support, this is going to be one of the most challenging bridges that you ever cross within yourself. Shedding that adrenaline, heavy masculine approach. If you truly wish to serve in a way that helps the people out there right now who are desperate and who've gone to practitioner after practitioner after practitioner, and they're still feeling the same old way, if you want to be someone that they can show up to and they can experience an internal shift that they never thought was possible, then we have got to shed the addiction to adrenaline in our professional practice. We're just going to let that settle for a moment, because I know that's a lot. And the ego may be squirming and fidgeting, and how will we be successful? How will we have our own needs met if we're not operating in that way? I promise you, you will. And just remember, we have professional coaching at the end of this program, right? You're going to be completely supported. So know that you are completely capable of reuniting with your feminine aspect in order to serve your community and yourself in a way that is so desperately needed on the planet right now. You were born with both feminine and masculine energy. You were born with the ability to be perceptive and receptive. You started out as a child, as a baby in this world, living in the realm of receptivity. feeling, sensing, and noticing. That was our entire lives before the world got its hands on us. So we're returning to that. That's what the return of the divine feminine actually is all about. It's more than just a concept, and it's so far beyond gender roles and the patriarchy. It's beyond all of that. It's restoring balance between the yin and the yang energies within ourselves so that we can project that balance in everything that we do. So if control is showing up for you, or that kind of addiction to adrenaline is showing up in your life and in your practice, don't shame yourself, but just take note of it in your journal, and let's explore that in your first private session together. Because there's an underlying fear or insecurity there that we need to bring some love to so that you can find your balance and your true power as a leader. And just letting you know, that's one of the hardest things that I ever had to do. But the results and the transformation are so worth it. And it's something that we work to constantly keep in check, as people who love to create things in the world and love to be of service. Being in that heavy adrenaline masculine state can be our default. And I know from experience. So none of this is to shame where we're at. It's just to get very honest with ourselves about where we're at, so we can grow and change and evolve in all the ways that we were meant to in order to be the leaders that we were born to be. Another note about control. Control interferes with our ability to find and maintain healthy rhythm in our lives. And this is kind of a no-brainer. When we're trying to control outcomes, when we're trying to control how productive we were in a day, or how much money we made in a day, or how many clients we saw in a day, when we're trying to control that, we will work in a very sort of manic, aroused state, sometimes not even nourishing ourselves in the process, and we'll do that for hours on end. There will be no rise and fall in our day. It's just all arousal. We're just climbing up that mountain as fast as we can all day long. And we're seeing clients in that state. That's not effective trauma support. And it's not a sustainable way of living, as we know. It's truly not a sustainable way of living. So we really also need to understand that your nervous system state will transfer to the people that you're working with. They may never tell you that. They may leave the appointment saying, yeah, I feel better, and thanks for showing me that. And then you may never see them again, because once they left, they felt really aroused, and they didn't feel like they were able to integrate an experience. So your nervous system state when you're showing up to clients means everything. And that means that we have to have a healthy rhythm in our lives. And we have to be in a receptive enough state that we can receive the internal cues of our own body, so we know when we need to take a break, and we honor that. And we know when we need to nourish and honor that. Or we know when we need to wipe the calendar clean that day, because we just don't have the vitality to keep giving our energy out. These are the things that we're going to be teaching clients as well. No one can heal from trauma if they are overworking themselves. No one can heal from trauma if they're in a constant state of people-pleasing or trying to prove themselves to the world. No one can heal from trauma under those conditions, because those conditions cause a chronic state of arousal, which means that that individual is never getting to orient to a feeling of being enough and being safe and supported in the world. So bring this into your own life first. So I hope that this assists with understanding, why are the homework assignments so very important? Why is it important to do them right away as soon as you get them? I'm gonna put them out every single Saturday. So every Saturday you get a new assignment, a new layer of awareness to bring into your life. And don't put these off, because if you postpone these embodiment practices and you don't start working on them for several weeks, you will be behind in the conversations that we're having. You'll be behind in your body comprehension and in your sensory comprehension of the material. And by the time the program is done in 6 months, you will not actually have embodied the work. Okay? And I've designed it in this way as an embodiment program so that you don't have to add a ton of research and a ton of homework to your already busy schedule. These assignments are going to help you find your rhythm and find your balance. They're going to nourish you, not deplete you. So don't put them off, and know that I am here for support anytime. Instant message me on the app, post in our online group. I am always here. So sending love to the entire group. I know that as I share these things, I sound very firm and very direct about the importance of this, and that's because there is not a lot of room here for, it's either you embody the practice or you don't. You embody the work or you don't. So it doesn't, to me, I don't care how scientifically you can speak or how intelligently you can speak about trauma. That means nothing to me. What means everything to me is the embodiment work. And that's what means everything to your clients. Because if you embody it first, you will be able to intuitively guide them where they need to go. You're not going to be needing to use some linear roadmap for it. You're not going to be referring to the textbooks to help them, because that cannot help them in the moment. What helps them in the moment is you being present enough to feel and sense how to guide your time with them. All right, so sending everyone a huge hug. I know that all of you are in this because you have such amazing things, unique things to offer to your communities as leaders, each and every one of you. So I look forward to seeing how all of that unfolds, and reach out whenever you like.